shows that there exists within us a fundamental error, an error of identity. Until we correct this error, we may do anything at all, yet we will remain in delusion. Atmabodha is establishment in correct identity. It is our sobering. They may place thousands of labels upon themselves. None of this has anything to do with our true nature. In this universe, everything is arranged in such a way that we are the Atman. This is a fact. This is given reality. For practitioners of Advaita Vedanta in the lineage descending from Sri Shankaracharya, to which we ourselves belong, the text Vivekachudamani is extremely important. It is devoted to the cultivation of discriminative wisdom, Viveka. And if Vivekachudamani is, one may say, the principal and foundational text from which the study of Advaita should begin, then Atmabodha is the text that resolves the question of identity, our own identity. It points us toward our true nature with which we ought to identify ourselves, and shows that there exists within us a fundamental error, an error of identity. Until we correct this error, we may do anything at all, yet we will remain in delusion. For example, there may be a person who imagines himself to be a dog. He tries to act like a human being. He buys a car, attempts to build a family, but somehow it does not work out. He even tries to behave like other people, yet deep inside he considers himself a dog. Whether alone or in communication with others, he identifies himself as a dog. That is, he cannot live normally in human society until he removes this false identity. Or, for example, if a person is intoxicated, he may, of course, act, speak, and resolve certain matters, but he cannot be adequate or clear-minded until he becomes sober. Atmabodha is establishment in correct identity. It is our sobering. And this sobering does not manifest immediately, even on the instantaneous path. The transformation of identity toward non-duality is a distinctive feature of Advaita Vedanta and Anuttara Tantra as culminating teachings. This feature is not characteristic of dualistic teachings. For example, in dualistic teachings, your identity does not play such a decisive role, although even there a certain identity is cultivated: servant of God, slave of God, son of God, or some other devotee. Such identities exist, but development does not go beyond that. Advaita Vedanta proceeds along the path of complete identity, union with God through the principle of Sayujya. If you follow the path of union with God, the path of complete self-surrender, Sayujya Mukti, then the result of such union is complete identity. Although this is a distant goal, we begin by becoming accustomed to such identity. It is impossible to change one's identity simply by declaring, "I am the Atman, Aham Brahmasmi." This is a long process. Even though we attempt to enter it immediately, it requires prolonged training. When Ramana Maharshi was asked whether enlightenment comes instantly or gradually, he answered, "Does the sun rise instantly, or does it somehow rise gradually? The sun itself is perfect from the beginning. It has no parts, and its disk always shines. But its rays, its light, do not always reach us. The fact that it appears to rise gradually and that dawn unfolds gradually depends on the one who perceives it. In the same way, establishment in a new identity, becoming accustomed to it, and cutting off doubts, this is a long process. All this is called Jnana Drishti. Understanding the Absolute is part of the view. Understanding one's own self, the Atman, as the Absolute is also part of the view. And all this is Jnana Drishti. Therefore, it is said that we must gradually accustom ourselves to Jnana Drishti, confirming this habituation through daily contemplative practice, sadhana. Then, very gradually, by uniting the view with conduct, we manifest it in behavior as energies, as powers, as the natural radiation of energy that we have mastered through habituation to the view and contemplation. Shankaracharya says that on one hand, we must logically understand our identity simply at the level of reasoning, just as is done in an academic setting. We must clearly and definitively explain to our mind who we really are. For this purpose, we must determine whether I am the body, energy, mind, the subtle body. Am I will and intellect buddhi, the causal body? This must be clarified, at least on the basis of the sacred texts. Our support is our intellect, our logical analysis, and the sacred scriptures. Since we trust them, we can gain a new understanding of our identity by relying first on logic, clarity, intellect, and scripture. When, by means of reasoning, we have explained to ourselves that we are the Atman, then no other alternatives are provided. Yes, we may wish to be someone else, but that does not change the situation. We still remain the same Atman. We may imagine something else, but that changes nothing. Such is the given fact. Such is the order of this universe. We are the Atman. People may imagine, I am a human being. I am a man, I am a woman, a son, a mother, a father, young, old, a Democrat, a patriot, a nationalist. They may place thousands of labels upon themselves. None of this has anything to do with our true nature. In this universe, everything is arranged in such a way that we are the Atman. This is a fact. This is given reality. After analyzing the sacred texts, we must first accept this at the level of faith. This does not mean we must rely only on intellect, analysis, and faith unsupported by personal experience. This is only the beginning. It is similar to proposing a hypothesis in scientific research. Scientists first put forward hypotheses. They suppose, what if this is so? What if the universe is permeated with superstrings? What if it has some previously undiscovered nature? In the same way, we put forward a hypothesis and then attempt to verify it analytically by studying the scriptures. Then we try to believe in it on the basis that the scriptures are authoritative for us and that the saints are authoritative for us. If we trust them, then we trust their words, their teachings, and the meanings contained within them. But then we must understand what it is that we believe in, this identity, and how to make it a matter of personal experience. How to make this identity something truly lived, not merely at the level of analytical thinking, intellectual study, or even faith, because as long as faith is weak, it strongly needs personal experience. Here, our identity passes into the sphere of contemplation. Its discovery and unfolding begin through samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi is precisely what allows us, for a brief moment, to experience this identity. When we come into contact with the divine light, with the space beyond all duality within us, we see, so this is what the I truly is. This is the pearl that exists in the depth of myself. But when we return, we feel that we part from this pearl. The mind and ego again overlay this experience, and we lose this identity. Then the question arises, how do we continue to stay with this identity continuously so that it allows us to dissolve karma? Because a brief experience of our true identity does not resolve the question of liberation. For example, you are freezing. Someone tells you there is a fire and even brings you to it for a second, but then takes you away again. This does not solve the problem of your freezing body. You understand that you must remain near the fire continuously if you want to overcome cold. In the same way, the dissolution of our karma, vasanakshaya, liberation from ignorance, liberation from the unjust laws of samsara, from all suffering, identifications, and the cycle of birth and death requires constant closeness to this identity, continuous immersion in it. This is called Sahaja Samadhi. Then arises the question of abiding in awareness of one's own identity. We call this the nature of mind, the principle of the natural state. The Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi is a sadhana taught by Shankaracharya. It nourishes our correct identity, gradually eliminating all ignorance, just as medicine eliminates disease. There exists a contemplative practice describing how to work with the Mahavakya. There is an entire section of the teaching devoted to meditation on divine greatness, the meditation of divine pride, Niralamba Dhyana. One must carefully study how to meditate on the Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. Maintaining the Mahavakya is part of contemplative practice. Meditation on the Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi, is a sign of belonging to the non-dual schools, Advaita Vedanta and Anuttara Tantra. The non-dual tradition descending from Shankaracharya and Dattatreya has a clear transmission, and the Mahavakya is passed from teacher to disciple. Along with the verbal expression of the Mahavakya, something more subtle is transmitted. Bhava, sadhana, a specific method, upaya, for working with it. Then experience, anubhava, becomes possible, and signs of successful progress appear during transmission itself. Eventually, one must hold to the essence of this Mahavakya throughout one's life, turning it into contemplative practice. This is Nididhyasana. There exists a formula for dissolving the inner instrument and all karma, antahkarana laya chintana. The entire world should be dissolved into the senses, indriya, the senses into manas, manas into buddhi, and buddhi dissolved into the Atman. Another version is a five-fold formula. The external world must be dissolved into manas. Then the mind must be dissolved into emptiness. Emptiness must be dissolved into the clear light. Then the clear light must be dissolved into non-duality, beyond subject and object. Finally, non-duality must be united with energy and bliss. When the tantric principle of power, Shakti, is activated. This is the five-fold formula for dissolving the karma of the subtle body and the inner instrument. All beings, from Brahma down to an ant, even to a bacterium, experience the clear light at the moment of death and rebirth. All living beings enter similar meditative states when they sleep. But only saints, enlightened and purified beings make this process conscious and recognize their own true identity.